Hey, what's going on? This is Louis Angel with AE Mind, and I have with us today Miss Katie from London, England. How's it going, Katie? How are you doing out there?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Doing amazing. I'm just here, excited, ready to do this with you. Having you on here just made my day today. So thank you so much for getting on the call. All right, so guys, Katie, she is, if you guys didn't know, I don't know why you wouldn't, but she is a top memory athlete. She is currently positioned number three in the UK. So she's a top three memory athlete in the UK. She has a world record in names and faces. You did 97 names in 5 minutes. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's right.
That's that's incredible. Yenja has a 15-minute world record, and you have the 5 minute world
Mhm.
record. So that's amazing. You've done so many great things, in each one of these different events. And in 2012, you took home the title for memory champion in the UK memory competition. So that's incredible. Congratulations for that
Thank you.
achievement, Katie. So it's a quick rundown. I'll post more stats about her down below. But she's done pretty much. She's a badass when it comes to the memory world, right? She knows how to do amazing things, and she knows how to memorize things very quickly. So, and we'll get more into her strategies, how she memorizes names, and all the other, how she does all the other events. After we kind of go down her story and how she got into this field of memory training and memory competitions, and how it actually, how it helps her out in her to day life as well. So, Katie, again, thank you for having us here today. Real quick, we you were at the Extreme Memory Tournament in San Diego last year,
Yeah,
and you are qualified also, right, for this year's memory competition, Extreme Memory Championship. Is that correct?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, quite glad I don't have to qualifying. 'Cause it's nerve-wracking. I remember sitting there last year, hands shaking, trying to qualify. But yeah, it's just nice to sit back and see who else is going to take part. It's good.
Right. and And listen, you did incredible. Like, you went to the quarterfinals last year, which was amazing. Out of all the competitors there, you made it to the quarterfinals. So that essentially meant that you don't have to qualify this year.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, she doesn't have to qualify yet. She still did a qualifying event. So how these Extreme Memory Championships tournaments work is, the top eight from the previous year, they go and automatically qualify for the next year's competition, and then you have a rundown with other people that just want to go ahead and compete at this competition. We just submit qualifying scores, right? So Katie, she submitted a score. She didn't have to, but she did it for names and faces, and she got 29 names in just slightly under a minute. It was like 0.02 under a minute, which is incredible. So 29 names, that's pretty remarkable. So talk to me about that. Like, you didn't have to do it, but you did it, and 29 names. Like, how was that for you? Like, how'd you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to do it, but wanted to join in. And also last year, I didn't win the names qualification, so I thought,
Hmm.
I'll have a go at winning this year. But yeah, even though I didn't have to qualify, I was still nervous. Just sitting at home. So yeah, the first four attempts didn't go so well. So yeah, the final one, it all came together, and yeah, just under a minute
Just a
somehow.
minute. Yeah. Have you done the full 30 under a minute before?
Yes, yeah, I have, yeah.
You have in practice.
Yeah, it happens in training, but yeah, I think I was maybe nervous. I was trying a new strategy, so it didn't really work out. But um,
Okay.
yeah, I still got the top score, so I'm happy.
All right, we'll talk about those strategies if you're willing to share them with us in a moment. Uh, I know that some people like to keep their secrets, but we'll see if you can get we can get you to share a few of those. So now, how do you compare training versus actual competition?
Um, yeah, I would say I'm definitely more nervous in a competition, but
Hmm.
also the adrenaline on the day can make you perform better and focus more, I suppose. Um,
Right.
but I haven't actually been to that many competitions actually, maybe
Hmm.
five or six altogether. So for me, it's still a relatively new thing when I go to a competition. But yeah, I'm excited about this year's XMT, definitely.
Awesome. Okay. And so let's go to a, few years back. How
Mhm.
did Katie get into this world of memory? How did you discover this?
I can vividly remember it because it was I was 10 or 11, so yeah, a long time ago, a Wednesday afternoon. I know this
Wow.
because we we had this amazing teacher at school. It was like a supply teacher, so she only came in on Wednesday afternoons, and she taught
Okay.
us really really interesting stuff.
Hmm.
And so yeah, one Wednesday she came in and said she was going to tell a story. Started with Mercury thermometer smashing into 1,000 pieces, and then the goddess Venus came and swept it all up and like gathered it and threw it into the garden, and it went down into the earth, and then she saw something in the earth, and it was a Mars bar. So this story went on, and it was about the planets basically. And then at the end she said,
Okay.
so now you can recall the order of the planets in the solar system anytime you want just by going through this story. And so
Right.
I was my mind was blown. This is amazing because I actually had quite a good memory, but
Hmm.
before that, I would memorize things by just reading them over and over again. But this was like such a new way of doing it, and it was more fun, and you can memorize as many different stories as you want. So limitless
Right.
possibilities. The weird thing was, a few years later when I went to university, I was in a bookshop,
Right.
and I found this book on memory. And when I opened it, I saw the same planet story.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is where Mrs. Smith got her story, and it was one of Tony Buzan's. So
Okay.
obviously, I bought the book and
Hmm.
got it home, and I learned the major system, and right the last few pages there was stuff about the World Memory Championship. So that was the moment when I discovered there was a competition for
Right.
memory. So I was straight away I knew this was something I wanted to do.
Okay. Now, when was your first competition?
Um, 2008.
2008. Okay.
Yeah, Cambridge Memory Championships.
Okay. And so you got into the memory competition scene, and you actually did pretty well even during the first few competitions. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first competition, it was Ben Primmel's competition in Cambridge,
Right.
and yeah, it was great. I met some really nice people. Um, everyone was so friendly because I thought, oh, I can't go to competition, I'm not good enough, but everyone was so nice.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I got a world record in names and faces,
Oh man.
which was a bit of a surprise. Yeah, so it was a good first competition.
All right. So, all right. We'll talk a little bit more about competition in a moment, but I want to get back to, you growing up. And so you got into this at 10, 11 years old while learning the techniques through Ms. Smith. But
Yeah.
did she go deeper into how to apply this to other areas, or was it just memorizing the planets and that's it and she walked away?
Yeah, that was basically it. I wouldn't say I used that information to memorize stuff at school. I
Hmm.
mean, like I said, my memory was quite good, so at school I was able to memorize, exam stuff fairly easily. So
Yeah.
it was just like an idea in the back of my mind, like I never forgot this story. And so a few years later, I started to look for books and things about memory.
Right.
Um, it was kind of later that I really got into it.
Okay. And so how how do you think that like learning the memory techniques have helped you out in life? Like once you actually started getting into it, you read the books, you got Tony's books, and maybe you went through other programs. How do you think that that has actually helped you out in your day to day life?
To be honest, I use it in day-to-day life, and I know that a lot of people do, but it's just something that I only use for competitions. I know there's so many possibilities, but
Right.
yeah, I'm quite disorganized in my everyday life, really.
No, but we all are like people always. I'm sure you get this too. Like, oh, you're the memory person. You must be able to memorize every single thing that you see and do and all these different things, right? But that can
Yeah.
be further from the case for many of us. I know it is for me. I still forget things, and I still, people ask me what was, we were just listening to this. Boom, what were they saying? I'm like, I wasn't necessarily trying to memorize what they were saying, so I don't know word by word, right? Do you get those kind of reactions
Oh
from people?
yeah, all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband mainly because I forget sometimes. Like I forget to go to appointments. I forget when my son's meant to take his homework back to school, things like that. So,
Right.
yeah, I get that a lot.
That happens, and you're the world record holder. You're not supposed to forget anything, right? But hey, it happens.
Names are
So that's one area that I know that you use, and this has helped you out in your day to day. Is when you meet people, I'm sure that you're able to at least retain their names, right? Retain that information. Do you actively, when you want to? So do you actively use the memorization technique that you use in competition to remember people's names in person?
I don't really use a technique as such in competition. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
to be honest, in day-to-day life, yeah, I forget people's names because maybe I wasn't listening when they told me, or
Right. And
or something. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I remember people, like people I met years ago. I still remember their names, so I suppose I do. Yeah, I retain this sort of stuff. But
Okay.
yeah,
So maybe when you want to, and when you review it, and you're like, okay, I want to remember this person's information, then you might make a little bit of more of an effort. So you have two
yeah,
kids, right? Two babies.
that's right. Yeah,
You have a boy and a
yeah,
girl. So are they in school right now?
that's right. Yeah, my boy's 6 years old, but my little girl's 3, so she's not at school yet. But yeah, they're quite interested in the memory world. To be honest,
Yeah.
they talk about Ben Pridmore and Simon Reinhard, that superstars to them. They follow the XMT qualifying. They're very excited about it.
Right. So now, are they? Have you taught them the memorization techniques? Are they actually using it themselves?
A couple of years ago, I taught my little boy to put objects in locations. So he'd use our house as a memory palace. So he would think of an object and put it in the driveway, and then he'd think of another object and put it in the next room, and then when he ran out of rooms, he'd use another house that he knew.
Yeah.
So he could do about 20 objects. So yeah, he got quite into it.
Okay.
But now he just likes doing XMT names and XMT images.
You have him log into your account and he's just there. Maybe he's the one that got the 29 names in under a minute. Actually. So my nieces, they love my niece. She just turned 8, and one of them is 3 right now, I believe. Yeah, so one of them's 8, one is 3, and the 8-year-old, I taught her how to memorize the planets, actually, using the method of journey system, and I pretty much associated all the planets to her body. So whenever she wants to remember one, she just points to it, right? And she's like, oh yeah, I picture, boom, Jupiter is jumping Jupiter over here on my hip, jumping Jupiter, right? So she pictures it just jumping on her hip. I know that this works for students. I work with students, and you taught it to the young people, to your kids, to your kids. So, do you think that it's beneficial for kids to learn these at a young age? Should they wait till they're older? What are your recommendations in that regard?
I think it's definitely beneficial. I think there's a lot of negative view of memory in education, because I think we don't want the kids to be just robots that learn facts, but I don't think it's about that. I think to be able to think more creatively, you need to have knowledge to start with. So I think it's definitely.
I know that you learn this at a young age, so I definitely feel that it's gonna help out kids if they learn it at a young age. Like, you learned it at 10, 11 years old, and you even though you didn't pick up a deck of cards and start memorizing that right away, right? I'm sure that the technique, that's whole learning through story form, that helped out your creativity, and that helped out, or at least planted a seed for you to learn a slightly different way in school. So yeah, I'm sure that if kids learn it right now, it's gonna help them out tremendously in school, whether they actively use the techniques or just kind of unconsciously they use it in their own way,
Yeah.
right? Now, have you done any sort of like teaching this to others, aside from teaching it to your kids?
I did one TV show where I sort of coached kids with with memory techniques. So that was fun because it was the first time I'd done anything like that. One of them didn't actually want to learn memory techniques and wanted to learn everything by rote. So that was really interesting because she was actually really good. But yeah, it was really good to teach the others, and yeah, they picked it up so easily, and yeah, it was really fun.
Awesome. So that show was in the
That's
UK,
right, yeah,
in London. Awesome. So how did that whole experience, work out for you? How did they even find you to be on that show and to be a coach for these
I
kids?
think they went through the Phil Chambers and the UK memory people. They got James Patterson and Jake O'Gorman. So yeah, the three of us did some coaching, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. My contestants didn't win. I think it was one of James Patterson's students that won. But yeah, it was so much fun to do.
Yeah, but overall, to do these types of shows, it's pretty incredible. And to see, like, I don't know, I find it that when I've taken some kids that I've taught my students to, like, memory competitions, and I find it that it's awesome when you go out and compete and you do pretty well for yourself. But when you see others, even just like competing, like doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna win or whatnot, but just them competing, I don't know. For me, it feels more of a gratification, right? To see somebody else do well, somebody that you worked with. Did you feel a sense of that when you saw your kids, well, not these students competing in the
Yeah,
show?
definitely. I mean, I actually always wanted to teach memory skills to somebody else, because I spent all these years learning them, but I'd never really had a chance to like explain the concepts to somebody else. And it was really great that they picked this stuff up and they just tried it out, and you could see them getting so excited because they were memorizing cards faster than they could the week before, and it was really, really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was happy when they took part, and I thought, well, I helped them a little bit. It was nice.
Right. Do you want to teach others in the future?
Yeah.
Like, you want to pick up?
Yeah, possibly. I've got no plans at the moment to do that, but yeah, it would be really nice to do that because yeah, memory has been such a big part of my life, so I want to pass that on to other people.
Right. So everyone watching, listening, if you are out there in the UK, you want to reach out to her, you can find her, I'm sure, everywhere, online, Facebook. But, somehow get a hold of Katie. And she is an amazing person. She knows how to do this, and she's willing to help you out as well. So definitely get in touch with her so she can give you some amazing coaching in that regard. So now, what do you currently do, Katie?
I'm a translator.
Where do you work at right
now? I'm a translator. I work from home. I do French, German, and Dutch translation into English. So yeah, it's a really nice, being freelance because I've got my kids. It's a really sort of flexible job. And that's one area you could use memory techniques is learning languages. I wouldn't say I really use it, but yeah, it's sort of to rise foreign languages.
So, do you plan on learning any new languages? And now that you have, the memory techniques at your disposal, would you use them, and how would you even use them to learn a new language?
Yeah, well, you can't see this, but right next to me there's a bookcase full of language books. Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with languages. So yeah, I've always wanted to learn more and more languages, and I never get fluent in anything, but I just love picking up a book and learning a few words of Portuguese or Romanian or Greek or whatever it is. But yeah, there's so many websites out there like Memrise. There's a Duolingo software. It's great, and memory techniques can be a big part of that. So for mnemonics to learn different words in the foreign language. So yeah.
So, if you don't mind, like, what would be an example of, say, a word, right? Let's say German. Give me let me give you an English word, and then see if you can give me the the German version of that. And then how would you teach somebody to be able to memorize or link those two together? So I don't know, like banana, right? So banana, what is the German translation for a banana? And then how would you actually associate that using the memory techniques?
Okay, I think the German for banana is fairly similar. So I'll give you an example because I don't really translate into another language, so I'm kind of confusing myself here. But like say you were learning the French word for apple, which is pomme. Okay. So you might think of a pom-pom, like an apple. You know, underneath the pom-pom there's a big apple or something. Just a little thing, an association like that.
Right. That's golden, right? That's it. That's it. We keep it simple, and that's how you do it. So, and that's true. Like for Spanish, right? For Spanish, comer, so to eat, comer, right? Comer, I picture a comb. So I don't have any hair, but back in the day, I used to comb my hair. So I picture a comb, and maybe I'm eating some cereal with the comb, right? So you know that's how you link it right now. Pom. You have an apple in there. That's a translation
be like
for it in French.
So like instead of the apple being inside the pom pom, you could be waving apples instead of pom poms. So yeah, different ways of thinking.
Different things. Yeah. And listen, it's all just visualizing and creating weird, crazy stories that might not happen. You will probably not have huge apples waving them in the air right in real life. However, you know, when you create these stories, they will help you to remember that because it's so outrageous and so different that your brain's like, okay, this is different. Let me go ahead and actually remember this, right? Because it visually sees that, you know, those linkages. So that's awesome. That's a great way to learn languages, and you can apply this to pretty much any language, right? You can, if you want to learn a word and associate it with your current language, then just create a story out of it, right? Is that pretty much the rundown of how this works with languages?
Yeah, and you can even place them in locations. You can think of like a city in the place in the country of the language that you want to learn. So if I'm learning French, you know, I think of one set of words at the Eiffel Tower and another set of words somewhere else in Paris. You know, there's so many different ways you can do it, but yeah, just use journeys, use associations like the pom and the apple. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So there we go with the languages. Now, your favorite, we already know, your favorite event is names and faces in these memory competitions, right? So, I know Yenja, she has this whole, she does use like visual representations for names for the most part, and then she also has this thing where she's like, oh, I feel that this person is a Sam, or I feel that he is a Peter, or she is a Jane. And she told me that you have pretty much something very similar to in that regard. So what are your secrets when it comes to being able to memorize names very quickly and being able to retain those names?
So yeah, it's similar to what Yanja does. It's like different names maybe have a different feel or different texture or color. So like the name Penelope reminds me of a banana, but I don't know why, it just does. Yeah, and like my name Katie is red in my mind, and yeah, different names just kind of feel and look different in my mind. You know, it's not like a tangible picture that I see straight away. It's sometimes a vague impression, but I think it definitely helps because I'm never going to mix up a Penny and a Penelope because, you know, one is yellow and one is red. You know, it's just different. So it's similar to what Yanja does. But also I think because I've learned little bits of lots of languages, I'm quite familiar with names from all over the world. So when I see all these different international names in competitions, you know, I sort of know, oh, that guy's Portuguese, that name is from Romania, that, you know, each person I sort of remember where they came from, and that helps me to the name when I recall. I think, oh yeah, that was the Belgian guy, so his name was this, and it's a good way for me to remember them.
So now you do the international versions are, you know, different than the national names, right? Like the XMT. Do you find that the XMT ones, because they're, I don't want to say easier, but they just don't have like, you know, say all these different international names, Chinese names, and you know, these Asian-based names, and you know, names from around the world. It's pretty much, you know, your Johns, your Lewis, your Alex, you know, Katie's. So do you find those a lot easier than, say, at an international memory competition?
Actually, no, because I find it harder because they're all, you know, I think, well, they sound English or American, you know, they all sound like Dave, Mike. It's not something I can really connect to. And they don't have surnames, so when you see a name and a surname together, you can get like a picture of that person, like where they're from and what sort of person they might be like, what their personality is. But when you just see a single name, it's actually quite tough to do.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, you definitely do use the entire data there at your disposal to create these different associations, these different linkages, right? For some of us, especially us out here in the U.S., we find that these names are like perfect for us. We just like the singular names, and they don't have these other weird spellings for those names, so that we find that it's easier for us to remember those. But yeah, you're saying pretty much the opposite, that it's harder for you because you use that extra data to help you memorize.
Like there's a little backstory about the person, which it's something to connect to.
Okay, that's awesome. So same thing, Yenja, she does pretty much something very similar to you then, as far as using her other languages to help her remember names. So I'm getting this excuse me, I'm getting like a little correlation there. So learning more languages, or having more of these languages at your disposal, helps you out. And actually, I am a product of that as well, as far as like, I don't have world records like you guys in this field. However, I use my second language, which is Spanish. That's my native language, really, Spanish, to help me remember some of these names. So if I see like a dulce, which is candy, boom, I'll be able to picture candy for her, right? So I use that as well. So if I see like a name that's in Spanish, I'll use my associations. I have a lot of family members, a lot of them that are, because I'm Mexican, that are Hispanic. So I know a lot of Spanish names, and I have already predetermined associations for these Spanish names, so I can easily just link them. So I know how that might work. So for everyone listening, essentially you use what association that you already have for these names, or maybe feelings that you have for these names, and you associate that with the person, right? Like I don't know if you get this. Do you find it that family members, when you meet people that have the same names as maybe a family member, that it's easier for you to remember that name later on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the more people you know with that name, you sort of build up a picture of, what is a Peter like, or what is a George like. You get like a amalgamation of all these different people that associates with the name, if you see what I mean. So it definitely helps.
Yeah, for sure. Like, again, I use that myself. So yeah, build up that library, people. So if you want to, get good at memorizing names, sure, you probably won't break a world record like Katie, or maybe you might. You never know. You apply what she's teaching you, and you get to practice, and you might be able to break it or get closer. But she's always training and getting better. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be hard to catch up to her. But yeah, just build up that library, build up that internal library of associations, and that's gonna help you remember names and pretty much anything else. So aside from names, what's your next favorite event in competition?
Words is probably my next favorite. It's definitely my next favorite.
Definitely.
So yeah, for that one, I use 4 words per location. Make a little story. Yeah.
Really? What? That's incredible. Most people do 2, maybe 3. You use 4. Can you give me a quick example of how you might remember, say, a chunk of 4 words in one location?
Give me 4 words.
Okay. Let's say we'll keep it simple, and maybe one hard, one challenging. So we'll say pencil, first word. Okay. Pencil, ocean, lamp, just because I lamp here, and we'll say benevolent.
Wow. Okay, so a pencil bobbing up and down in the ocean, and then it's probably called spark or something because it's in the water, and then benevolent. Well, because it's got Ben at the beginning, I'd probably bring a person in. So imagine somebody called Ben And because benevolent means like kind, I would think of Ben doing something really kind and giving the lamp back to whoever it belongs to. So yeah, I always try to bring a person in because it can be very, very abstract. So I like to always have one person in each location. And if there isn't an obvious person sort of dictated by the words, then I would just use anybody and have them do the actions that relate to the nouns or the verbs.
Okay. So is Ben like
It
Ben
could be.
Pinmore?
I know lots of Bens. Too many Bens.
Okay, a lot of Bens. So that's good. I saw Ben, you know, our Ben, you know, the world memory champion Ben. He's ours. So I saw our Ben, or yours, I guess, because he's in the UK. But I saw our Ben, and he was doing all those actions right with the lamp and the water and the pencil. So that's awesome. I could definitely see that in my mind. So there you go. Just create associations for words. That's Katie's second favorite event is words. So it's all just visualizing, creating these stories, and being very creative with them, right? So great. Now, what are your next goals for competitions? You have the XMT coming around this year. You're already qualified for that, so I'm excited to see you here again in San Diego, and hopefully, you know, maybe one of these years you'll come out to a world memory competition. So what are your goals for competitions?
Yeah, well, I'm very excited about the XMT. You know, last year I didn't expect to be in the quarterfinals. I was in a really, really tough group, but yeah, somehow it worked out really well. So yeah, I hope to do something similar this year if I can, but you know, everybody else has improved. I've improved a little bit, but yeah, it'll just be fun to be there. And hopefully a competition in the UK. Yeah, one day maybe a world memory championship. That would be great to take.
So all right. So we got, you know, the XMT, we have the UK, and hopefully maybe a world memory competition soon. Want to see you out there, break some world records, some more. So now, kind of. That's awesome. You know, moving aside now from the memory world, let's just throw out a few random just questions off the top. So what does Katie like to do aside from training and aside from, you know, working and translating and doing all those kind of things? What does Katie like to do?
I don't really get much free time because I have two young children. I mean, I love sport. I mean, playing sport, watching sport, anything like that. Music. Yeah, they'd probably be my favorite things other than memory, which is a big hobby.
Yeah.
Football.
Sport. What's your favorite
soccer
sport?
To you? Yeah.
Football. Our soccer, our football. We're about to have our national football, American football competition. Right? It's, you know, the Super Bowl they call it out here. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but yeah, it's coming up actually at the end of this week. So, but yeah, we call ours. You know, that's our football. But yeah, soccer, football, the real football. Cool. Did you play? Did you play
I mean,
sports
I was
growing
never
up,
very
or do you play
good,
sports?
but you know, when I was at university, I did football, rowing. Play pool, you know, like all sorts of things. I just love watching it as well, and you know, it's just something I've always been into. My parents were really into, you know, cricket and football, so it was just something I've always liked.
Awesome. All right. So sports. That's Katie's thing. Sports. So all right. What's your favorite book? Right. You know, maybe you read a few years back, or maybe you're reading right now. What's
you know,
what's
the weird thing is I don't actually read a lot of fiction at all. So at the moment I'm reading a book called The Chimp Paradox, which is about mind management. It's like how to, you know, not let your emotions rule your mind. It's very, you know, related to sport science, like, you know, when you're taking part in a competition, not to let your chimp brain kind of take over, and you know, how not to panic. So hopefully this will help me at the XM to stay calm.
Stay calm, cool, relax. There's a lot of pressure there, so I'm sure it will. There was a sorry, going back to memory. There was a few distraction or secret events mystery events that they did at the XMT. So you know, what was your reaction when you saw that? Like they were playing loud music when you remember, when they were memorizing cards. So, what was your reaction to
I
when they released those
think
events?
I did better Distraction Cards event than in the normal cards event, because at home I'm used
Really?
to memorizing with a lot going on in the background, like the TV or music or the kids running around. So it didn't distract me at all.
Okay, you brought up a good point. So I have friends. Ron White is a two-time USA memory champion, and he was in the military, right? And he for his first like run at the actual championship, like when he was getting serious, he competed under pressure. He like CEO, and then he like trained him under pressure. Under a swimming pool, and he was memorizing. Do you feel that actually, that helps you out being around maybe not the most relaxed environment, but having things going on left and right? Do you think that actually does help you out in
I
competition?
think so, because then you off even in a competition. So it's best to be prepared for that and just memorize wherever, whenever, regardless of the noise. Definitely.
Awesome. So for those watching, that's a great memory tip, because a lot of people think, okay, let me just memorize. Like, no, go out. I've heard people go to like bars and restaurants, and they don't order anything. They just sit there and memorize stuff. I think Yanja is someone that does that. But just go out and about where there's people, and memorize,
Yeah.
because that's gonna help you out when you're under pressure in a competition. So it's great stuff there. All right. Last question. What's Katie's favorite quote? Or if you don't have one, you can make one up, or maybe something that you tell your kids, or something that you heard, when you were younger, that just really stuck to you. What's your favorite quote, or maybe quotes?
Okay, I can think of two. So the first one is Albert Einstein. He said, if a class sign of a mind, what then is an empty
Ooh.
desk a sign? And I like that quote because my desk is always empty. So, uh, yeah, the other one is something that my little boy said to me before the XMT. I don't know how he came out with this, but he just said, Mum, it's not about who's better, it's about who concentrates the
Okay,
most.
okay. I like that one. It's true too, because you can have, I've seen and we've seen in memory competitions, the best in the world, or top 10, right, in the entire world, and you get somebody that's maybe ranked lower than they are, and they come and they beat them. Why? That it can be because they weren't concentrating, or they let the pressure get to them, or several different variations. Maybe they train normally in a very relaxed and controlled environment, and they're not used to having cameras in front of their eyes, and having maybe to face each other one-on-one. So that's very true. It's the one that's more focused and concentrated. All right, that could be better. So awesome. It's great advice. Overall, just amazing interview with you, Kate. Thank you so much for hopping on here, and for being on this AE Mind Memory Experts interview. And I'm sure that there are going to be many more with you, many more tips, and hopefully, if you're game and you want to hop on one of these, I'm always willing to have you on. So again, thank you so much. And if you guys have questions for her, you can post them down below. And next time that I get a chance to interview her or see her, I'll definitely bring those questions up and see if she's open to sharing the answers with you.